39.
Number 1.
39.
1.
38.
37.
36.
35.
34.
33.
32.
31.
30.
29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22.
21.
20.
19.
18. 17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10. 9. 8.
7. 6.
5.
4.
3.
2.
1. It's time for mouthwash. Giddy up. Hi, and welcome to the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty fresh take on politics. And yes, we are coming to you live from the Chateau de Mars Hill studio. And if you did notice, we had a couple little tweaks on the intro there. And one thing you might notice is Tony Kinnett. I thought he was with Chalkboard Review, and he's gotten so famous, he's actually got a radio show on WIBC Saturdays, I think 1 to 3. 1 to 3. So, but you won't catch him this weekend because IU's playing, and you know, IU is pretty important, so you got to listen to that. But we got a pretty good show for you tonight. It's interesting. We had everyone last week and no Ed, and this week all I see backstage is Ed. So this may be the Ed, Tony, and John show tonight. Lucy is driving, so she says she might be able to get on at the last half, and I don't know where Tiffany is. So and then we do have in small talk tonight. I think there's going to be a couple cats show up. So we want to pay attention to that. But the show's we're going to talk about some education and Tony's new show. So of course Mark Small is going to do his piece on TIFs. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Tony on here, and before he gets to be too big a star for us, Tony, how are you doing tonight?
Absolutely stellar. How's it going, John?
It's going. I was scrambling to fix the preview because you're moving up the ladder so fast, I can't keep up. So go ahead and tell some of our viewers that may or may not know who you are and what you're up to.
My name's Tony Kinnett. I am an investigative columnist for the Daily Signal and the Heritage Foundation. And I live out here in Indiana because I despise both New York City and Washington. And so I do a lot of education reporting around the country, and I'm on WIBC a lot because Hammer and Nigel seem to like me all right. So yeah, now I'm doing a show over there on the weekends, and it's a lot of fun. Yep.
And see, you got a fan. Look at this. Tony's the best. I mean, the best. And you're not like second, third, you're not runner up, the best. So that's good. That's good to know. Yeah. Take all we can get on this. So we're going to talk about some stuff tonight. And, you have your ear to the ground on a lot of education stuff. And I did just a real quick poll on People Over Politics. So if you guys want to switch over there, you can open up two things. You can watch the show and go to People Over Politics on Facebook, and you can vote. I got some creative choices for you. It talks about the Indiana education is, and then you can pick one of the other ones below there. And as the show goes on, we'll get that. Look at this. Tiffany has come on just in the nick of time, and she's laughing back there. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on our panel here. Let's see. There's Ed. There's Tiffany. And guess what? Tony, you're going out into the hot seat. There you go.
Oh, Tiffany good. Great. Yeah, that's lovely.
There we go. Yeah, there you go. Oh, it looks better. You can see all your books. So now we know you're smarter. When it was on the other thing, all I saw was, your little background there. But now you have books involved, so we may even think.
Yeah, gotta love the $30 fake wood panel from Home Depot. Yeah, that's high quality premium stuff right there.
Hey, you're a big radio star now. You can get some, you can upgrade that tile or whatever, get that Tony Katz guy to give you some
tile.
Yeah, tile, like a mosaic of, Tony right back there.
Only the finest of Greco-Roman podcast backgrounds.
You could blur the thing or whatever. There's so much. Just think about this, though. You think about, even like 15 or 20 years ago, we could not, you can't have your own show. You can't have you have to listen to the news or, you catch it on the newspaper or radio. Now it's like we got so many podcasts. I don't know which one to watch. But
I've got friends who've got these massive televisions behind them, and then I guess they can be whatever color you want, but your lighting's got to be perfect, or else it looks like your max headroom and that old
I got it.
TV
I got
frame.
a little bit of that going on with my grayness, and it looks greenish and whatnot. But hey, doing the best I can with our limited budgets. So let's say hi to the panel real quick here. Ed, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, John. I'd just like to tell you that mentioning that Lucy and Tiffany are not on the show is a way to lose people in the first 5 minutes of the show.
Yeah, that's right. I think.
Besides that, Tony, we started off with the wrong foot. I cannot believe you shop at Home Depot. I'm sorry. Yeah. Other than that, I'm doing great, John.
Hey, it is what it is, man. I living in Greenfield, and also I go into a Lowe's and there's no one within 200,000 yards of me, and I can't stand Menards. So,
yeah, I'm with you there.
South, you can drive up to South Bend. Hey, Ed, real quick, did your Super Bowl team win or lose? Which one were you picking?
I was rooting for both teams to lose, so no, and I did not.
Well, it was close.
I did not get my wardrobe malfunction, so yes, I was a loser all around.
I picked the indigenous people leaders to win, and I was barely right. So maybe there'll be a conspiracy theory later about that Super Bowl. I don't know, man. So Tiffany, I see you just popping on there at the last second. Did you almost forget that we had a show tonight?
I have a little bit of I have a minor medical procedure tomorrow, so I was doing some stuff around the house to get ready, and then I finished, and then I couldn't be on the show without snacks, so I had to grab a snack before I came upstairs. So I'm here, I'm ready. Sorry I was late, but it's always a pleasure to see Tony. I saw him last week at the school board meeting, so
yeah, that's right.
About that, yeah.
Yeah, that you could ask a question about that. But no, you weren't late. You were right on time. You were just right on time. Now Lucy's driving, so she'll probably pop on here. I told her to drive fast, but don't speed. So tonight we're going to talk about probably all sorts of things, because as you know, Tony's a bright guy. He's, he knows all things. He's like before Google.
I really appreciate your setting me up for the fall here. This is just going to be one beautiful train wreck, and it's all going to be your fault.
Yeah, that's I don't think we should use the word train wreck after what happened to Ohio. That sounded like it was a pretty bad deal over there with all the chlorine gas and whatnot. It's crazy. Oh, one thing quick before we go. Now, my wife's been watching this eagle out in a nest out at Eagle Lake. And, look, I mentioned her name, and this is what she says. Blame me for everything. I got it. She's watching this eagle out at Bear Lake out in California. And apparently, you can watch the eagle on the nest. And apparently tomorrow the little chickies are going to hatch out. So when I come home from work, she fills me in on what happened today with the eagle, because she's recovering from foot surgery. So apparently when you get that bored from not being able to walk around, you have to watch eagles. She started out with the fire. Does anybody else watch the fire online? You can watch a crackling fire. It'll burn all the way down. She also has.
Oh yeah, we have that. We have that play around Christmas. So
yeah, it's all year round here, baby. It's all. And then she has another bird feeder in Ohio that has black squirrel and all sorts of stuff on it. So I'm just broadening my horizons on my culture here. So, but anyway, I don't.
These on YouTube, or are these like OnlyFans for environmentally conscious?
I don't know. Lisa, post the where you can watch this stuff in there, the eagle thing. So she says YouTube. It's a YouTube thing, and they have. So this is the drama that happens. So apparently the eagles, see, the mom and the dad take turns sitting on the eggs. So apparently they left the eggs yesterday.
Equal rights, equal pay for equal work.
I know it. That's what.
Am I too soon?
Yeah, well, you know how it works. The man eagle doesn't sit on it as long as the female. So apparently yesterday they left the eggs uncovered for like 5 hours. And Lisa was telling me all the hate mail. These people were mad at the eagles because they weren't doing their job. I was like, what? So hopefully they hatch. If they don't hatch, it's probably going to be a problem.
How do you know it's going to happen tomorrow?
Because it's 35 days. So it's 35 days for eagles, 28 days for ducks and geese, 21 days for chickens, and 18 days for quail. Don't ask me why I know that, but I know.
Where are the sirens? Whose house?
That's got to be Ed's.
Mine. Yep.
Oh. He lives in the ghetto up in Tiffany. Who else has had their car stolen from their driveway? I mean, come on. What do you think? Although I live in Mars Hill, we do have sirens on occasion. But
your neighbors would just steal your driveway.
Yeah, that's what it is. So anyway, Tony, aren't you glad you're on the show so we could just waste our time here with this? But
it's not a time waste whenever it's a good conversation.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to some good conversation then. So anyway, let's get to some questions. Tiffany, you want to get started, or who wants to go first?
So Tony, talk to us about the school board meeting that you went to last week and what your thoughts were.
Okay. So I had reported on Hamilton Southeastern has problems. Hamilton Southeastern has a lot of problems because all of the individuals who are most excited about being progressives and all of the individuals who are most excited about being conservatives and populists seem to live in Hamilton County. And so a lot of education drama finds itself in Hamilton Southeastern. So there was a recent situation where a middle school orchestra teacher, Ben Yoder, was sending sexually explicit messages, inappropriate messages to a high school student. And so the school started an investigation based on our report, and he resigned. Now he's currently under investigation by the DOE and still, I believe, the Fishers Police. So I was going to the school board meeting because Dr. Stokes was expected to make a statement on the situation. There were a lot of rumors flying around. It's considered good practice for an administrator to say, hey, here's what we know. Here's what's true. Here's what's not true. Because, everyone starts making Facebook posts, the telephone game, it gets all out of control. So I show up to cover this. And I had heard that there was a big, huge debate about a mental health grant that had been federally awarded to Hamilton Southeastern. But that really wasn't something that I was going there to cover. And then that part of the school board meeting took up 3 hours we were already an hour into it. So it's 11 p.m. Everyone is exhausted. It was this massive argument over, at least at the end of looking, it looked like a lot of minutia to me. A lot of questions that probably should have been answered by legal services before a school board meeting. And one individual said that the school board was not allowed to vote on approving grants, which was patently not true. That's not how the law works. And there was a lot of screaming, a lot of pearl clutching, and then we all went home. And the only thing I can say after watching something like that is I forgot what it's like to be in a room full of progressive, very wealthy suburban moms who know nothing about the law, but their hearts are not just on their sleeve. I don't know what's more overt than wearing your heart on your sleeve, like maybe wearing it on your fingernails. And that's really what that school board meeting was like. And it was refreshing. The Indy Star reporter passed out at his desk. I have a picture of it. Poor guy. I feel for him. The Wish TV camera guy was like staring at the same spot on the wall for 30 minutes. And he was like 23 years old. And it's like he was remembering Vietnam. So it was a rough meeting. That's for sure.
So is this Ben Yoder? Is he a brand new school board person, or he's on the
school
board?
No, Ben Yoder was a teacher who had taught at the district for around 11 or 12 years, actually. I'm pretty sure that I had...
school board. He's not school board.
No.
Okay.
The school board accepted his resignation at the school board meeting.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, when I went to a preacher school, there was a class called Healthy Boundaries, and actually in psychology, you take, we have some classes about healthy boundaries, and you think when you first take that class, you think, heck, man, what are they talking about here? And then when you start doing some counseling and you start doing some teaching, you start to understand that how you keep those healthy boundaries. And So it's tricky. So, man, that's crazy. So 3-hour school board meeting.
No.
Oh, 4.
4 hours. Oh, 4.
4. The first hour was all procedure, and then there were 3 hours of arguing.
Okay, so here's a $100 question. So Adam Harvey asked, so was anything decided?
Well, the holders of the grant finally admitted that certain terms of the grant could be changed. So racial quotas, for example. There was legal language written in the grant that suggested that they had to hire certain numbers of certain races. They had to go to certain places to recruit certain races to teach at the school, which is you get into very shaky federal legal ground when you start saying we're going to set up racial quotas for the school. And even if you don't overtly say that, several both state and federal cases set precedent where that's not okay. So they kind of tabled it for the evening, but they did, once the holders of the grant actually ended up saying, yes, we can change a few things, they did end up accepting the grant later that week. There were 2 dissenting votes against the grant when it was finally passed.
Wow, I don't ever remember school boards being this it's just crazy. You just never even hear about a school board meeting. So
I think, is it interesting or contentious? What are you thinking?
Oh, like me? Whether I thought it was interesting or contentious?
No. I was talking to John. Do you think you've never heard school board meetings being so interesting or so contentious?
I don't know. I mean, I just didn't really think about, you go to school and there's teachers and there's a principal. I didn't know there was all these moving parts that were involved. So I guess I'm going to go with interesting. But I mean, I think that ever since COVID, there's a lot of parents have been contentious about a lot of things. I think some things they thought was, hey, it's all okay. And then you come to find out it's totally something different. So before we go any further, Lucy, I see you there. Did you speed to get here on time? I mean, that's a good panelist to speed.
So full disclosure, and you'll love this. In fact, John, I thought of you, and you may want to go to this place too. There is a great private rescue in Indianapolis called Indy Claw. So it's indyclaw.org. And they were giving away free rabbit manure, because they rescue rabbits as well. So
what am I going to do with free rabbit manure?
It's the best fertilizer ever. Unlike chicken, which has, so much nitrogen in it and you have to age it for a year, rabbit manure can go right on your garden now. It's incredible.
Yeah, a lot of people think I'm full of rabbit manure. That's for sure.
No, I think you're actually full of bull manure. But so I just made it home. And I was so excited about the rabbit poop that I went and got a trailer from Tractor Supply and rode up there with my 16-year-old because I needed some muscle. And the gentleman there, Bob, was so sweet. And so I've got a 10x6 trailer and a pickup truck, bags full of rabbit poo. And I'm happier than
you're just so happy. Wow. I'm glad I asked.
Yes. And we have Tony back. So that's amazing. Thank you for being here, Tony, and trying to make sure that, drag shows aren't happening in the middle of the middle schoolers classes.
So before we go any further, Tyree Coleman asks, what's the big announcement? Well, Elder, the announcement is that Tony's got a show on WIBC Saturdays from
Congratulations. That's amazing.
That's the big announcement. You guys have got to get some better news. That's not a big announcement. That Abdul's running for mayor. They had an empty slot. It's not that. I really appreciate it. I'm flattered, but please don't make too big a deal out of it.
No, we're gonna. I think. Oh, look! See, we already got this coming in. Congratulations! There you go. See, it's a big deal.
Thank you.
It's a big
That's
deal.
very kind.
I mean, what else do we have going on? I mean, I think people are tired of politics.
Way bigger news. 70 is open east and westbound through Indianapolis.
Oh, both ways now, huh?
Yeah.
Both ways. That is a big announcement.
No kidding.
Now that right there, that's a blessing that the Lord.
And it'll last a whole week before they start some other scheme to mess it up.
Well said.
Yeah, well, I live by the airport, and so I take 70 quite a bit. So, man, I have to go all the way around one way or the other, and man, that south side it's not been my friend. It's like clogged up quite a bit, and the 69's getting ready to come up in there too.
Yeah, they're clearing that spot away next to 37. It looks really well done, and the 69 corridor going down that way. Actually, I'm really impressed. It's completely changed Martinsville.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's I think they're going through the Southport Road and the other roads. It's like it'll cut off I used to live down that way. It took 15 minutes to get to 465. Now it'll take like 10 because you don't have to stop. So, but I don't live down there anymore. So thanks for doing it, later than sooner. So anyway, Lucy, I'm glad about your rabbit manure or poop or whatever you call that. So don't get them mixed up with M&Ms or Cocoa Pops. That's the
No
Pops.
Cocoa Puffs. I'm not cuckoo for
put some in a bowl and give them to your kids and say, "Hey, here's some Cocoa Puffs. See what they say." Just to see what happens there.
Well, how would it be different from any other night that I cook? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. There's some organic something or other. I'm sure that's happening. But okay. So Lucy, I want to put you. Tiffany had a question. Ed, you want a question? You want to put a question in there? I mean, does South Bend even have schools up there?
Nah, apparently not. Nope. So, well, first of all, Tony, you getting paid for this new gig? Because some
the
of
radio
us are
show.
Jealous. Yeah.
Yeah. There is a small stipend per show.
Man, you are famous. You don't get this.
See?
Is like the Super Bowl here. You do it for free. We don't even
I
we don't have a union.
People watch, but see the difference is people watch Mouthwash. I don't get this many comments when I'm doing a live stream. I get like one guy leaving like very awkward, like anti-Mexican comments, and we just try to get him to go away, and he keeps coming back. So I'll take your comment pool anytime.
That's funny.
Awesome.
Well, and we do have a great audience. I mean, we do. I mean, and having the live chat on, if somebody puts up there, so we even have questions like this, Tony. This is a question for what is the recommended remedy for a headache?
Oh, it depends what kind of headache it is. Like if it's a hangover headache, you need a good flat steak cooked in salted butter, and then you need to take a nap. But if it's a dehydration headache, then you need to take 1 spoon of Splenda and 1/2 a teaspoon of salt, mix that up in your water or drink a Pedialyte, and then take a nap. Always take a nap. Taking a nap is the best answer.
You can't see the dude knows everything. They can't even trip him up.
I have a remedy. If your problem is with a politician, you apply tar and feathers.
Ooh, now that's the libertarian answer right there. You're going to make me go get my join or die flag.
Well, I just want to warn you, Tony, if she does not get taxation as theft in the show before it's over, it will be a first, and she probably will ask you about that. But speaking of,
I'm very sympathetic to libertarians. It's okay. I believe in the civilian production of Class 3 firearms, so we're good.
Awesome. All right, I got my 3D printer on order now that I've got your approval.
No hugging on the show, please. So. Let's jump into this. So we were talking a little bit before. There's this Senate Bill 486, and the Indiana Teachers Association unions all up in arms about it, saying teachers are going to quit and all this. And Tony, could you give us a quick synopsis on that bill there? Because I read it, and I don't know what it says.
Yeah. So first of all, I should say, like most other education bills that have been put forward in the last 5 years, this one's a large nothing burger. It doesn't actually do anything really serious. And what it is doing, it doesn't really accomplish well. So first of all, the best way to start when talking about any kind of policy is let's address the problem and then let's go to a solution. So what's the problem that's trying to be addressed here? Teachers are required to sit through oodles, canoodles, and toaster strudels of trainings, all like professional developments. We have to do new trainings each semester. Whenever the year starts, there's a whole nother line of trainings. And 99% of teachers, and I want to make that very clear, 99% of teachers will press play on the training video on their computer, and then they will open up some other tab or go talk to teachers in the hallway, and then they will click through all of those videos. So all the videos that are cited in the Senate bill, the recognizing homelessness training, or the how not to touch blood when a kid cuts his arm off, or how to what's some of the other trainings, like how to make sure your windows in your classroom are locked, all of those trainings, the state is no longer going to require those. Okay, it's a nothing burger. Like, it wasn't actually taking up a ton of my time. I sat through those trainings and totally did not press play and click through all of them. And then I got into a master's class and had to do a paper on each one of those segments. And it's a complete waste of time. If you don't know what to do around a bloodborne pathogen, maybe you shouldn't be in education. I don't think a training is really going to help you there. That said, both the right and the left are making way too big a deal about this. This does nothing as far as like actually stopping the worthless waste of teachers' time and professional developments. There's no reason a teacher should be going and sitting and listening to some English salesman come in and say, hey, our English method works. We've tried it here, here, and here. Buy our software. And that takes up hours of every teacher's week. It's a waste of time. This law doesn't stop that. This law is like basic safety training curbing. And then the ISTA is flipping out because it's a day ending in Y. So they're like, teachers are going to quit. Okay, well, this is the 18th year in a row that the Indiana legislators are supposedly going to pass a bill that all the teachers are going to quit. I did a survey last year. 600 teachers from the Midwest told me that the reason that they were quitting, those that were leaving the classroom, told me that it was because of student behavior and it was because of political actions of the administration or school board policy. It had nothing to do with, I don't like the Indiana legislature. Legislatures suck in each and every state. It's bureaucracy. Teachers hate it, just like everyone else.
So I got a question. About just why did they? It just seems like I think earlier you said something about if they'll argue. You could say teachers are good, and they would argue it if the right person said that. I don't get why they dig in because they have a commercial there on Facebook. Student SB 486 is bad for people. It's just bad. But they give no reason why it's bad. It's just like, just call your person now and complain. And I see the comments. Okay, I'll do it. And I wonder if they even really realize what the bill was. But I agree. It's like, why are they picking on this?
I was walking to WIVC studios, but I parked near the State House over in what used to be one of the press slots because I was going to go watch some banter on a Century 21 scholarship bill. And so on my way there, I saw two teachers cross the street in front of me in red. I'm wearing my press pass. And so I just decided to ask kind of off the cuff, hey, I see you guys are in red. Why are you here? And they say, we're here for an education bill. I'm like, yeah, I probably could have guessed. I recognize the shirts. What education bill? They say it's about teachers. It's like, again, I probably could have ascertained such. What is the bill that you were here to protest? They didn't know. I tried to press them. What is this bill? They said it forbids teachers from talking to administrators. There is no bill that even remotely does that in any way, shape, or form. But I asked them, and eventually they came to the point of telling me that the ISTA told them to come protest the bill, so they came.
Useful idiots.
That's really it.
Useful idiots.
Well, and are we to that point where it's just us against them? And I don't even know who us are. I mean, let's talk about the Red for Ed for a second. They already have a union, and then they have Red for Ed as another arm of the union. I mean, why isn't the union doing this? I mean,
the Red for Ed thing is a very brilliant political move. So, for example, let's say tomorrow there was a campaign started that was just blue for healthcare. So you're going to wear blue if you believe in healthcare. And so then everyone starts wearing blue shirts because they know nurses and doctors and EMTs and first responders. So they're going to wear blue. And then if you don't wear, you remember the Seinfeld episode where Kramer doesn't want to wear the AIDS ribbon? Yeah. And so he goes to the race and they're like angry at him because he doesn't want to wear the ribbon. And they're like, well, you must hate people with AIDS. No, they still want to wear the ribbon. So the Red for Ed is a very clever tactic. It's the National Education Association colors are red and white, as they have been for decades. So they'll say, well, we're Red for Ed. If you really believe in education, then you'll be part of this campaign. Because if you're not, then, if you're not anti-racist, then therefore you must be. And so it's a political vocabulary game that's very effective in marketing strategy because 6 out of 10 Americans just want to be left alone. They're apolitical. They really don't want to be bothered. And so when you put things in this false dichotomy, we saw this, during the Iraq War. If you didn't support the Iraq War, then you hated the troops. So that was a Republican establishment neocon kind of pushed out. And these things happen in politics because if you can get the 6 out of 10 who want to be left alone to jump on the bandwagon, then you can ramrod through whatever political policy that you want and look like Gandhi for doing so.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to be on the right side of things. Okay, Tony, I'm going to have to ask you to look at the camera because it's driving Tiffany crazy. Here. There you go. Yeah, there you go. Is that
sorry
better,
here?
Tiffany?
Me too. Hold on. I have never done this before, but this is the studio.
Okay.
So the camera that I'm looking at is right over there, and then one of my monitors is over here. So
Okay.
sorry, I'll flip that
There
back
you
around.
go.
I
Tiffany, are you
apologize.
good now? It was Tiffany who said it in private messages, like, tell Tony to look
Yay,
at the
thank
camera.
you.
Tell you, this is a live broadcast, so we can't.
No,
let
I
that-
mean,
it's
I'm
that-
listening
it's that
to him
air-
talk,
it's
I'm
that
looking at the side of his head.
Okay, so
Well-
it's killing Adam. So we put questions on the show from our audience. That's why they love watching the show, because they get to interact. And SB 12, a bill to get pornography out of schools, has a committee hearing tomorrow. Let's talk about that one a little bit. This one to me is very puzzling, because if there ain't none, then you don't have to worry about it. Is this another do nothing, say nothing crazy bill that was unnecessary?
Not necessarily, no. So pornography is illegal in schools. The definition of pornography is up for debate. That's the whole matter. So, for example, Genderqueer is a book that has several suggestive, disturbing images that are definitely pornographic in nature and are inappropriate for a child to consume. However, they are illustrated. And because they are illustrated and the overt purpose of the book is not to arouse, according to the author, then there was an argument, at least in South Carolina, that it's not technically pornography. It may share a lot of similarities with pornography, but it's not technically porn. And so this bill basically seeks to cement anything that's close to porn is porn. And you run into some weird legal precedent stuff. Like, is there any book that has sexual explicit content at all? Is that forbidden? Because then you start getting rid of a lot of books. Like 1984 is a book that should be in high schools. You remember 2 chapters in 1984, like Winston is going to town, if you catch my drift. So those things said, I personally believe that this should be a locally school board decided issue, not because I think porn should be in schools, because again, this is the other side thing. Oh, you don't want porn in schools, do you? You better vote for this bill. I am always nervous about someone attacking a bureaucratic bowl of spaghetti with a hammer. I personally think that you need to be very particular when you are outlining what is and isn't allowed. Now, that said, do I think genderqueer should be banned from school libraries? Absolutely, in every book like it. 110%. I don't believe that content that promotes promiscuity in any way, shape, or form belongs in youth or school public funded libraries. And by public funded libraries, I mean school libraries, not public county or metropolitan libraries.
Right. So what if you would say that I think the bill, basically they've stripped it down to, if you were to have that material out on the street, you'd be arrested, but the exemption is what they're trying to get rid of. But if they get rid of the exemption, then they say, oh, well, they're going to go after their librarians with pitchforks and Lucy's tar and feathers. So it seems like each side has an extreme argument about what this is. And I hear people on one side say, well, show me where it is. Well, technically, if I show you where it is, I could get arrested because I'm not in the library. So,
well, not necessarily. There are definite places that we can point to it. The Indianapolis Public Library has been promoting certain books to Indianapolis public school elementary classrooms that are very perverse. I also agree with the idea that there is no librarian or teacher that should be exempt from the providing pornography to a minor rule, or sexually explicit material to a minor rule. I don't see any reason that shouldn't be repealed, especially considering the hyper-political climate that we currently reside in.
Yeah, that is interesting. Any of the panels have a thought about that? I was sort of asking my own questions there. I was sort of not being a good host. I was being selfish. Nobody wants to jump in on the porn in school side.
I wanted to step back before that a little bit, because we talked a lot about Red for Ed, but Tony, you had also mentioned that this was a big nothing burger. So as much as Red for Ed is maybe wringing their fists at something, on the right, you're saying that the bill really doesn't do much either on that side. So could you address that as well?
The bill we're talking about, just to make sure.
No, when we step back before that, we were just talking about we were talking before this. We were talking about some stuff that you had teachers coming down and that they're not
They
even
didn't know what
sure
they
of
were.
what they're fighting about.
So
Also
the
on
bill before on
right,
the banning the trainings, do I think that the
Yeah,
people that are in
yeah.
support of the banning the training? Yeah, I mean, you ever been in traffic and you think you got cut off by someone else, but actually it was someone completely different, but you're still mad at that first car that you could have sworn is the bad guy. I think that in that bill's case, that is what a lot of the right is aggravated about. And I sat in on either on live stream or in person over in that marble tabled press box, listening to a lot of people explain why this bill was really good. And I think it's taping a Band-Aid onto a gaping flesh wound. I think that it's much easier to restrict the ability of the state to require trainings of any kind whatsoever, and then let school boards locally determine what qualifies a teacher, rather than to have, well, we're going to have the IDOE set up their special training box, and then we're going to ban homeless training, but we're not going to ban this other kind of training. There's no reason to tie yourself into knots repeatedly. And unfortunately, Indiana Republicans have no idea how to just say, we're going to cut out the whole knot. Because then they get calls from constituents who say, well, the world is going to end if you cut out the knot. And so the Republican goes, oh, okay. And then they end up neutering a bill until it's nothing, like the school partisanship bill, which now has a referendum clause, which when I talked to some friends in a national education caucus about that, there was 15 solid seconds of laughter because it was the stupidest thing they'd ever heard of.
That's the bill graveyard, isn't it? Pretty much where they go to die.
I mean, you neuter things endlessly. I mean, I don't know how many times Indiana education bills have received the colloquial vasectomy. Too many times to count.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a bill on that someday where it's mandatory. Wow, that is interesting. Yeah, so Adam, he helps with the show out. He says that that partisan school board bill is now garbage.
Yeah, he's correct.
So let's see, Lucy. I want to have another question from you because I think it's, and then we're going to go to smallpox. We're going to go to small talk.
It shall forever be smallpox now.
Yeah, I
he loves those vaccines, even as infective and poisonous as they are. So
I make up words on accident. And then while you're asking a question, I'm going to go to the People Over Politics page and see how our poll is doing. So let's see what we have there. So go ahead,
Tony,
Lucy.
Here's what I'm curious about. I mean, obviously the best thing for us to do is to walk away from the educational system, but for some folks, they just can't do it. Single moms, I mean, that's a real thing, single parents. When you're in the belly of the beast in the system, are there any tips that you can give parents to try and protect their children as much as they possibly can?
The first thing that I would say to any parent who is kind of stuck in their system, which most like, let's say you're in a rural district and you can't stay in the rural district, but there are no like other alternative schools to take your kid to at the present time, or you can't find the time to provide transportation. If you're in like a larger area, in the morning you have an early shift or whatever. My advice to those parents would be, find out which of the teachers is on your side and which of the teachers is more apathetic, or which teachers you don't get along with, and then treat that teacher well. I was treated very well by my parents when I taught, and vice versa. And I tried to treat my parents very well, especially those who I got to communicate with a lot. Teachers will talk to you as much as you talk to them most of the time. Some teachers won't. Some teachers are, again, very detached from their job, but a lot of teachers aren't. And a great leg up on finding out what's going on in your school, if you're concerned about that, is talking to a good teacher. And I think it would be easier for me now to list districts where I don't have contacts in the state of Indiana. There are a lot of great teachers in every district. And I do mean, even in the bellies of the beast, even in Gary and IPS, in South Bend, to throw Ed a bone. And then schools like Richard Bean Blossom down in Bloomington. There are a lot of great teachers, and they will work with you. 9 times out of 10, your biggest enemy is the administrator. Principals suck. Now, a lot of them are good, but like the majority of the rot is not going to come from a teacher. It's going to come from an administrator with a bunch of useless education master's degrees who, I don't know, couldn't cut it as a music educator. That's usually where a lot of that junk comes from.
Yeah. So that being said, the people over politics, this was the question. What is the condition of the Indiana education system? We had choices were dumpster, total overhaul, top notch, needs a little work, not sure. 75% dumpster, 25% total overhaul. So there you go. That's what the people they think. So what do we do now? Where are we at in this situation? Where are we at? See, my English is terrible too. That's because I was, public schools. Where are we now? How's that?
We have been passing small laws in an attempt to fix a system for decades in Indiana. And this decades festering ball of spaghetti has been tied into so many legal knots of precedent that it is very difficult for me to apply a blanket solution. I don't have a one-size-fits-all approach here. This is why I'm in favor of the libertarian idea of localization, and that I think that individual school boards would do a far better job of basically controlling 99% of the show. That said, it's such a large ball of spaghetti that the best bit of advice that I could give people right now is to start dismantling regulations rather than adding new ones on top of a very unstable Jenga tower.
I would agree with that. And I just re-upped my substitute teaching because if you don't teach in 150 days, you have to start over. So I'm back good to go in Wayne Township and Perry Township. So if your kids go to that school, beware. I'm back. I'm back. So Spiro's got a good question here. What about the funding? How can good behavior be rewarded? I mean, is there a way to put incentives in there? And then let me do this other question here too. How much funding does the Department of Education eat up of our general budget? So,
one half, that's an easy one to answer. So Indiana spends 1/2 of its budget on education. It is a very sizable percentage of our state's expenditures, and it is growing all of the time. In fact, once in the last, I think 5 budget cycles, the education spending was stymied. And I don't mean cut, but like stymied in its continual rise, especially when accounting for inflation. As to financial incentive rewards for things, I'm very much against that because funding is not something... I find it a very dangerous game to start offering financial incentives for behavior because that's what the federal government does to pursue social change. It's a very UN style tactic. We use food as a club. We don't apologize. It's a very famous UN quote from a secretary general in the 80s. So I don't agree with the idea of financial incentives. I think that, again, deregulation and classical competition will be a cream rise to the top, as every other industry has shown. Anytime you start subsidizing things, it becomes garbage. There is not one industry that has succeeded other than the space program through government subsidy and competed in an exceptional level versus a purely free market competition standard. And the only reason I can say that is because there was no free market competition to NASA.
Yeah, how can you compete with that? If I was to build a spaceship out here in Mars Hill, I would probably miss that little window and just go off somewhere. And then the Air Force would shoot me down because I'd be an unidentified flying object, which seems to be very popular now. So we are going to do the Monty Python, and now for something completely different, we're going to do small talk. And hey, as I said in the intro, we may or may not have some cats on the scene tonight. So I know that's going to make our fans happy. I know Dorn is going to be happy with the cats, but you have to look hard. This is like one of those little magazines where you got to look for the hidden creatures. So here you go. Let's listen to Mark Small. He's going to talk about TIFs. So you're going to get a little education on TIFs. And I know Tony he'll know something about this. If he knew about the headache thing, he's got this, no problem. So here's Mark Small and Small Talk.
Hi, Mark Small. This is Small Talk for February 14th, 2023. Happy Valentine's Day to you, all you lovebirds out there. For the rest of us, let's let's go back to when people first started doing stuff under Indiana government in terms of land. People would own land, they would build on land, they would do all sorts of stuff with land, but the premise was private development occurred. And there'd be some public stuff. I mean, where you had to have a highway, for example, the national highway went through Indiana. Well, they'd use eminent domain to obtain that property if they had to. In other words, they'd say, get off, well, here's some compensation. Or if something was really causing a lot of problems and people were being harmed by it, like toxins and stuff, like Love Canal in New York, it would be condemned through eminent domain, and they would obtain that property and make sure that it got cleaned up. Well, the idea was that you didn't use eminent domain or governmental power to take that property just for private development. Well, in the 1950s in California, they had blighted areas, they couldn't get developed, and they were looking like in large cities, and they said, well, how can we get land developed there? Well, why not do this? And what they did was they created an area, a bunch of areas as it turned out, and they would incrementally increase the taxing because of that district, because they'd say, build something here, give us a plan, when you build it, we'll tax on the new added value to it, okay? And those are called tax increment finance districts. And they would float the bond beforehand. The pitch was, you taxpayers aren't paying for this. And then they would build and the developers would leave town. Well, Indiana got caught onto this in the 1970s, but we really didn't start doing it until about 15 years ago. And we really started doing it heavy. Last year, 11% of our state property taxes, or property taxes in the state, came from tips. The thing is, that doesn't mean, oh, that meant we have all that money in the general fund for, no, that has to go back to paying the tips. So you still have streets, fire, police, schools, all these different things that have to be paid for that local government has to do. But because we have those tips, it can't go for that. It's got to go for repayment of the tips first. And instead of, in the 1950s, we had a requirement in California in the 1970s in the statute that the property had to be blighted to qualify for a TIF. Now in Indiana, you just have to show it has to be redeveloped. And that's why Carmel has TIFs. That's why a whole bunch of really affluent places have TIFs. And the places that need develop don't get TIF money anymore. I'm Mark Small. I'm running for City County Council here in Marion County, District 2. I approve of this message. Hell, I made it. Peace.
Mark was in rare form tonight. Now, Lucy, if you don't get a say your line now, I can't set you up any better than that. So what, Lucy, taxes are what?
Taxation is theft, no matter how it's sold to you, no matter the bleeding hearts telling you that it's for the public good, it's still theft.
Yeah, they're trying to put a 75-year TIF on my poor neighbors over here in Mars Hill to get them out of the flood district, but we can put $10 million in a park. So hey, I'm just reporting news. Don't send me the hate mail. So yeah, go ahead, Lucy. I
was just going to say it's really easy to spend money when it's virtually limitless because you either print it out of thin air or you steal it from people. I mean, think about the vast public good that is done by road pirates pulling you over and grabbing $250 a pop. I mean, yeah. That was sarcasm.
Well, it's when we talk about the TIF and all this, I think people thought it was great because we can get it now and pay later. It's almost like going down to the Rent-A-Center and you can get your TV now and pay for it in 2 months or whatever. But and you think about our bills are going to get very big tax bills. I mean, mine last year was 676% increase. So I can't wait to see what they're going to get me for this year. But
isn't it nice to, eat at the buffet and then hand those bills down to your great grandkids? Because that's where it's going at this point. It's not even giving them to your kids or your grandkids. It's the great grandkids that are paying for this now.
If you met any of my kids, you'd know they deserve it. But anyway, so we're going to try to get tax relief here. So say we just cap this. There's no more increase in property taxes. How do you think these TIFs are going to get paid back? So this is where we are trying to, juggle these balls up in the air. How, are we going to get tax relief? Heck no. it's going to just keep going up. So, all right, Mr. Kinnett, you had a very good remedy for headaches. What remedy do you have for this headache?
Well, you're going to have to pay the piper, and that's the really hard thing that everyone doesn't really like. There are a lot of areas in Indiana spending that you can cut in order to pay back the TIF and all of the bonds that were given out like free candy at a cheap Halloween house. But there's one important lesson to draw from when we're talking about TIFs. The government is a terrible, terrible investor. It is a terrible judge in deciding what is economically beneficial or what is economically detrimental. Because the government, as has been illustrated many times throughout history, is in control of the security and the protection of the general population, and it has a vested interest in collecting on investments that it has made. This is why you see in a lot of districts that have screwed around with TIFs for example, in Denver, there were allegations made in the late 90s that the police were protecting certain financial areas of Denver over others that had received these bonds through TIFing. And this is something that I've had serious concerns about with Eastern Indianapolis. Obviously, Small was talking in depth about areas that need development but aren't able to qualify for TIFs. Why Carmel is rolling in the dough as it has done and will continue to. So at the end of the day, I look at business longevity in Carmel. I look at businesses that are qualifying for all of the wonderful bond goodness and not having to pay taxes like the rest of us. And I look at where those businesses are in 5 years. And guess what? Over half of them aren't, because a lot of businesses that the government invest in suck, because the government is a very poor judge of whether a business is going to succeed or fail. So why are they giving any kind of incentive to any kind of a business or corporation? It should be a free market, fair play game in Indiana. If you can't make it here, it should be your own fault. And I, as a citizen, should not be footing the bill for your bad business practices.
Yeah, well, and Fort Wayne has some real, if you want to look up some TIFs that were really nightmarish, Fort Wayne had some really TIFs that went bad, and developers took advantage of them. And these are one of the things, I just think a lot of people don't know, what they are. I asked one of the deputy mayors at a meeting, I had him on the Facebook Live. I said, "Hey, what's a TIF?" The dude didn't know. I'm like, you're a deputy mayor. You don't know what a TIF is. And there is actually, was talking to Mark Small this weekend about the TIFs, and we looked up, you can actually look up where TIF districts are in Marion County. There is 77 TIF districts. And one of them that we chuckled about was on East Washington Street, and it was called a HOTIF, HOTIFF. And I'm like, okay, I still don't, it was homeowners or it was some, but that's what it was called. So we laughed and chuckled like little 8th grade kids about that. But that's a lot of TIFs. And then Mark looked on his, and he's in a flood TIF in his, and he was mad that he's like, I'm in this TIF up here. I didn't even know it. So I just think it's just another way that we get bamboozled into, stuff that we may or may not want, that we didn't know we were paying for, that we are paying for. So, but we did have some of the, Adam said, let Ed and Tiffany and Lucy talk. So one of you guys talk, okay? I've talked way more than I usually do. I might be excited because we have such a famous star as Tony Kinnett on the show here with his big radio show and all that. Well, by the way, I-70's open both ways.
Well, I'm always willing to.
So, Tony, I'm just going to jump in here. Hey, Tony, I just want to ask, so looking forward here, what are some things that our viewers should be keeping an eye out for? Some stuff that's coming up, down the road here.
Concerning what?
Education in general. You do report enough on education that, what are
behavior issues,
really big issues.
If there was one thing that I would ask every parent to start paying attention to, it is the number of behavioral issues that are happening in schools, where students' behavior sucks. It's at an all-time low. It's horrible. And parents on both sides of the aisle do not my Jimmy, he would never. It's that mean old Mrs. Hard-Broiled Burger who did. And you'll have kids who are very violent. And I'm talking now in the most rural of rural districts. Your Blue River Valleys, your North Vernon's down in southern Indiana, like your rural districts. Kids are getting exceptionally violent, and they're being sent to the office and in situations where students should be suspended or expelled. They are not even scolded. They're just sent back to the classroom because the principal just doesn't, you can't have write-ups on the record, or that looks really bad, and then you have to tell parents you have a problem. And that is driving teachers out of the classroom. That's ruining schools. So
Tony, that was a big part of that mental health grant. The way it was written, part of it talked about the number of fights and in school and out of school suspensions, and it really just stratified these violent occurrences among the African American children who, once they looked deeper, they saw it was African American children who were on free lunch. Imagine that. And I think that's part of the reason why some of the hiring of the mental health workers were supposed to be of the same ethnicity. Just Tiffany supposing here.
To provide an educator and a former education academic counter analysis here, that's not the greatest common denominator. So if you actually
it was just in the grant.
No, I'm sorry, I'm responding to the grant. Okay. So the problem is that it's not the kids who are getting into the most fights are not young black men on free lunches. It's kids from single parent households. So there was a larger percentage of kids of all colors, creeds, races, and religions from single parent households who get into fights, who have bad grades, who have low school attendance than any race or demographic or religion or whatever. Fatherlessness. And by the way, you can metrically track this in every region of the United States since 1962. That fatherlessness and the epidemic in the wake of the sexual revolution, where we said women need men like fish need a bicycle, that instance in American society has caused the behavioral problem of school. So to parents, I can say this: if you're a dad, be the dad of your home. Be a strong father who's not willing, be the strong father who's willing to discipline your kids. Because if you're not, you're responsible for all of the crap that your kids will do to the community around them. So don't be a weak dad. That's what I think is the biggest problem in education. If we had strong households, it wouldn't matter how weak the schools were.
Sure. So on top of that, on top of those weak households that you mentioned, how do you think restorative justice is playing into it? Because it seems like, no one's willing to hold these children accountable.
I think, Tiffany, I think you're right. We've talked about this several times before, but when you look at a kid and say, oh, it's not your fault, the world's just against you, and you start telling them that it's not the fact that you don't know your dad, or in my house, I was raised on my dad didn't have a mom. I was in trouble in school all the time. I was in a single parent household. But by telling them, oh, it's not your fault, you're just going through a really hard time. After my parents got divorced, and for a few years there, I was getting in a lot of trouble in schools, and they tried that tactic. They tried the whole, well, you're just under a lot of stress because of the divorce. So it's not really your fault. This is a lot of psychological issues that you're going through. So really, it's not your problem. When you tell a kid that, you're enabling bad behavior. Personal responsibility is indeed something that children look to because it is a sense of stability. The counter argument to that is, how dare you? How could you tell someone to pull someone up by their bootstraps? I didn't. I never once said that someone should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That's a false attribution anyway. I am suggesting that stability instead of affirmation is a healing salve to kids.
So fast forward, and you have this grant that they're going to get to bring in more mental health workers to do exactly what you were saying. Oh, let's talk about your issues. Let's understand. Let's chit chat. It's not you. They're not diagnosing. They're not medicating. And no one's really holding these kids accountable. Tiffany thinks that they probably should raise a barn and put in a JROTC program. If you got some kids who need some mentoring and some citizenship and a little bit of discipline, there are different ways to crack this nut. So I just I
got an idea.
As a former JROTC cadet, I would just like to say a very strong hua. And please can go on, John.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we should make this a history lesson. Back in the colonial days, they had stockades. You just set up some stockades in the lunchroom, and I'll tell you what, I don't think any kid would want to be in a stockade. I mean, you could even give out some fruit to throw at them like they did, and it'll be a history lesson. But that would probably be a little extreme, I would think.
That would
But I
be
would
too
think that it would
damaging
work.
to their psyches, and they would come back with guns that they found in the closet.
Yeah, that's probably true. But
So
then we could do like the
answer-
pilgrims, I guess, then fighting them for something.
To answer Tiffany's question about the grant, and as much as I love a good jest about stockades and fruit throwing, I want to mention that if the school board truly is this conservative majority, then I would recommend in this particular case that they hire actually decent counselors and medical professionals, because they are out there. I was actually having this discussion with a lady who runs a behavioral health psychiatrist office in Indianapolis, who is very conservative, and she follows a lot of traditional thought and a lot of psychological practices. They could hire those. You don't have to hire the bad ones. Like they're more than welcome to take that grant and actually use it for good. And that's really what I don't have any secret communication with the board as many think I do, but that's what I'd recommend.
To your point about hiring better mental health workers, I foresee them getting down the road where why wouldn't they just hit the insurance and charge people when they use them? If you got licensed counselors in the school and Jim, Tom, and Jimmy and Pam all have insurance, why can't you bill their insurance?
So I do not know the legal precedent in the state of Indiana for cross insurance public school, because like you get into a lot of like weird like who's allowed to bill whom, why, and then who assumes both legal and financial liability. I can come up with a very ethereal theory from my time as an education policy advisor to Governor Walker's office in Wisconsin. But I'd have to do a good weekend worth of research to come back and answer that question.
Yeah, well, we'll have you back. But when I look down the road,
maybe he's so famous now, Tiffany.
All right, that was a really creative way of saying I don't know. Thanks for letting me off the hook.
Thank you, and that's my way of saying please come back again. But down the road, if you've got these great, mental health professionals who can bill, why not just do counseling, do sessions before school, after school, and just charge for it? I mean, all of a sudden you're bringing some money in. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I want to switch gears.
Tony,
one more question. And go ahead, Ed. I'm gonna let you, but I want Lucy to get on this and Ed to get on this. So now that this is going to be about vaccine mandates, I know Lucy's going to be on this one. So, we were talking about single mothers and, foster kids. There's a real shortage for foster kids, 7th grade and up right now. So me and my wife looked into it, but there's a vaccine mandate. You have to be vaccinated to have these kids. And now they're going to put the vaccine mandate into the school, vaccine list. So how much is that going to affect our education? I've already heard some people say, well, my kids are going to get homeschooled because we're not doing the vaccine thing. And I'm not getting the vaccine because we can't, we want to do this foster care thing, but I have to get a vaccine to do that. So I'm going to give Ed and Lucy and Tony, you guys talk about this and I'll listen for a minute.
So I'll jump in and say, I want to tie this and our last idea together. And the idea is that there are some really good mental health people out there, but almost like you have some teachers that choose to stay in private school rather than come back to public school and deal with all the bureaucracy. We're talking the same thing with the vaccine mandate. How many of those people do you think we just lose that refuse to kind of even come back and help because they're tired of the bureaucracy and having to deal with?
That's a really good point.
Well, what I have to say about the vaccine mandate is really simple. The whole reason that the COVID vaccine was added by the ACIP, that's the organization that votes and says what's going to be on the childhood schedule, goes back to the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act and the National Vaccine Injury, the compensation program. If a vaccine makes it to the childhood schedule, there is no liability. The manufacturers are immune. So it's very simple why it got on the schedule. Now, how is this going to play out practically in real life? Well, the parents that are aware, that are good parents and actually research things, will look around and say, I don't want my kid to have it. And so they're simply going to opt out of that one. A lot of people, now that they've gone down the rabbit hole of the COVID vaccine didn't work and we weren't lied that we were lied to, all of a sudden I'm going, well, now wait a second, is it possible that we were lied to about other vaccines? And so a lot of parents are completely stopping all vaccines now, which is awesome to see. I have kids in public school. We have kids that we homeschool. We have kids that we do K-12 online because I have so many kids. We can do this all in
You
one
got
family.
a kid for every day.
I
and three
do.
other days.
And yeah, exactly. And extras. So it's not going to affect, the way that I feel about school because I've already had that conversation in our little rural school district where it's K through 12, less than 1,000 kids in the whole school, all the grades. I was the first person when we moved here 4 years ago to actually put out in a vaccine exemption form. They didn't know what to do with it. I had to teach them what to do. And so now they don't hassle us. I just get an email every year that says, hey, we need an updated letter from you. So, I would urge all parents to take their children out of school. Absolutely.
I think it would be interesting to do, just take one county and say, we're not going to do any kids vaccinated for so long. There was a big controversy, and there still maybe very well is, of autism and the vaccine and the mercury or whatever was in.
There's no mercury in any vaccine preservatives.
Okay, well
that's been disproven.
Actually, it's still used in the manufacturing process. You can find traces of it. And thimerosal is still in the packages of the flu vaccine, and thimerosal is mercury.
Well, I guess my point is that there's been discussion about these vaccines causing this and that. I don't think there's any real scientific data to prove that, but you know how stuff gets started.
So coming at this from a biology perspective, and coming this from someone who studied biology very specifically and is very interested in microbiology and also in pathology. I'm not an epidemiologist. And I'm not saying you have to be in order to have an opinion on this. But from my perspective, what frustrated me the most about the COVID-19 MMR vaccine messing with mRNA is that it is a very different kind of vaccine from any other kind of vaccine we've ever had. It is very similar to messing with the CRISPR-Cas9 basically a little genetic machine that goes into cells and into the nuclei and basically edits genetic text to create different sets of instructions for what the cell is supposed to do and create. And up until this point, we had no vaccines that did that. Basically, MMR presents a weakened form of the virus to kids. It is very safe. It is very safe. And the same with the polio vaccine. Polio was horrible.
Oh, no.
Polio was horrible.
Polio was not horrible. Polio is arsenic poisoning from Paris green. And that's why
that is not verifiably true in any scientific study.
And it's not verifiably true that polio vaccine works and actually prevents polio because there was no control group. There was no actual double-blind, placebo-controlled testing to prove that any of this works. And that's the main problem. We have 3 active
studies out of Botswana right now where it is continually being tested and recited again by independent individuals who are not associated with Big Pharma. It does work.
I'd love to see the data because no vaccine actually prevents the disease for which it's purported to prevent. And
prevents disease,
it never has.
No, it does provide a quicker response for the body to combat it when it is a weakened or
antibodies
destroyed form
are not
of
the
the
whole
virus.
immune system. The way that we measure vaccines.
No, it's one of 42 different cellular processes in the immune system.
That's exactly right. But the effectiveness of vaccines are rated by the antibody production. That's why there's currently MMR whistleblowers for the mumps portion of the vaccine that have been in legal battles with Merck for years because they were the scientists who were told by their supervisors to spike the sample sent to the FDA with rabbit antibodies for the mumps portion because they couldn't prove the 95% effectiveness rating, which necessitated you had to have the 95% effectiveness rating on the mumps portion in order for the U.S. government to purchase the vaccines, and they couldn't reach that effectiveness rating. And so this is current legal battle right now, MMR whistleblowers. And if you want to get back to MMR, we need to go back to Julie Gerberding in 2002 and how she totally gutted people who have autism and their children and totally threw them under the bus. And then after protecting Merck's MMR vaccine, then she went and got international safety as her new job title with a big promotion from Merck. She sold those children and threw them under the bus, and it is insanely bad. So no,
I strongly disagree with the grand conspiracy ideal that vaccines
It's not
are
a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. It's fact. Products were put out which hurt people, And in 1986, Ronald Reagan signed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act because he was lobbied, as Congress was lobbied, because Big Pharma has so much money. I mean, heck, we and New Zealand are the only countries in the world that have consumer marketing, direct to consumer marketing is allowable. Look at, you want to talk about mRNA vaccines and how bad they are. What Good Morning America, brought to you by Pfizer. Sam Smith in his satanic get-up, Pfizer, over the flames. I mean, put two and two together. This is not conspiracy theory. And by the way, I hate that because that was a 1960s term invented by the CIA to discredit people who were questioning the JFK assassination. So you're playing right into their script. And I'm surprised at that because you're an eminently intelligent person.
I'm not using conspiracy theory as the term of suggesting that the tinfoil. I mean, conspiracy and is a group of individuals that are privately conspiring to bring about societal change as a result of their actions.
Every board meeting at Pfizer is a conspiracy.
Okay, so the problem is that doesn't hold up to Watergate theory. It does not hold up to Watergate theory. So Watergate, one of the biggest political scandals supposedly of all time, in which every one of the 14 individuals which testified were entirely devoted to that being kept secret. Not one of them benefited from exposing that. Couldn't keep the secret for 2 weeks.
It's not a secret. It's not a secret. There are I've probably read over 100 books just on vaccine theory, why they don't work. I mean, I was brought up in the educational system, in the public school system, to revere vaccines. Sadly, my mother wasn't bright enough to protect me from vaccines. And as a result, I have a facial droop.
As someone who has watched these work in the microbiology lab, in the microscope in front of me, I highly disagree with what you're saying.
In vitro is different from in vivo.
I've seen it with my own eyes.
In vitro is different from in vivo. You take all the tens of thousands of children who have been directly murdered by vaccines.
You're making me wish I didn't ask the final question there. I thought this would be a little smoother than that.
You can't have me without controversy.
Oh, I know. Hey, I know.
No, and a good argument is good discussion. I mean, we're not like going to hate each other. I mean, you have to actually.
No, I still respect you. I think you're really smart, and it just surprises me that being so smart that you're missing this. But it's the hubris of somebody that studies biology. You think the people that came before you told you the truth, and they didn't.
I've seen the studies with my own eyes. I trust the experiments that I've observed.
I've seen children dead 72 hours after vaccines, and that's all the proof I need.
Wow.
Experience.
Okay, so Ed, you're going to get the last word here, and then we're going to go to the real conspiracy theory moments, and we'll see what that's about. And Tony, we got a new policy here that if you ever want to run for political office, or you have a reputation that you'd like to preserve, then you do not have to participate in the conspiracy theory, because that's when the show goes off the rail and things get said.
That's when it goes off the rails.
Oh, well, I'm trying here, Tiffany. I'm trying, I'm doing my best, doing my best to host this thing.
That's when the toxic waste comes out. It's
off
the rails.
We'll let Ed
we didn't even talk about Ohio.
We're done with questions. I shouldn't have even asked the one about the vaccine. So Ed's going to say something. Tony, we're going to give you the last word, but we're going to give Ed a last comment here on this whole fiasco that we talked about. Sum it up for us, Ed. Bring it home.
Clutch your pearls.
It's Valentine's Day, folks. Let's just hug it out. It's time to go. Come on, let's go. Love you, Tony.
You guys too.
All right, Tony. So go ahead. We have Tony Kinnett on our show. He's a big radio star on the WIBC now and all that. And I-70's open both ways. So maybe they'll let you do some traffic too there. I know.
That's all Matt Baer. That's his territory.
He's the best traffic guy. He's the best traffic guy, isn't he? I mean, and he's a nice guy too. He just a solid earth. I don't know how he fits in with the band of gypsies down there.
I swing open the really heavy news studio doors from the WIBC main studio and see him over there at his desk, and I ask him to clear certain paths of traffic for me on the way home, and he does it, man, every time.
He reminds me of Ignikowski on Taxi. He's a great dude. He's a great dude. He's gotten me out of many traffic jams, that's for sure. So, hey, Tony, we thank you for coming on tonight. Unless you want to stay for the conspiracy theory, we go to this format. It's not like you're on the hot seat.
Oh, good. Yeah, I don't mind staying for the conspiracy theory section. I did last time. And please take me off the hot seat.
Yeah, the hot seat is, but you were very good on it, except that little part where you're looking at the wrong camera and driving Tiffany crazy, but that was good. So, hold on. I got to play the intro for this.
I liked it.
So You know, everybody do you even got your gum foil there, Ed, or whatever? But hey, get it out. Hey, y'all, better get your tinfoil hats out. It's time for the conspiracy theory. Come on now, let's go. Yeah, that cracks me up every time I see it. Yeah, look, blue. Blue, is that for what? Is there any significance in the blue, Ed?
No, absolutely not.
None.
It's just what was later on.
Okay. Tiffany, you got a little cough, dude. Oh, here we go. Yeah, you need an apple on top of that. Like just like the little picture on the side there. Then people think we really practice for this show. So Tiffany, you don't have a conspiracy theory ever. I don't even know why I think Lucy has a conspiracy fact. Why do we even call this conspiracy theory? I'm starting to question it. So let me put up the banner before we get started. Okay, they're for entertainment purposes only. So Ed, start it up. What do you got?
I think this should be the potpourri section of the show. But I would just like to thank whoever that guy was that tugged on the jersey at the end of the game at the Super Bowl. Like I said, I don't really care who won. It was a flag, but it kicked off all kinds of conspiracy. Not like the Eagles hadn't been outscored all the second half and their amazing defense disappeared. This one guy tugs on a jersey and suddenly like that was the end of the game. So I just want to give a shout out to him. And yes, it's Valentine's Day. Let's go, folks.
Yeah, I think him and the guy on the Bengals that hit the guy out of bounds, they're going to have a phone call tomorrow and hug it out because it is close to Valentine's Day. Okay, Tiffany, what do you got for me? I mean, you seem like you're a little under the weather. You got a little cough due to cold there.
A little cough due to cold. Yes, I do have a little cough due to cold. Thank you. I do. And that on top of my lung issues from the time I spent in the desert, it sounds absolutely horrible. And it's frightening for people to hear. So I just choose to mute myself. So
even scares Bigfoot, huh? So is that your conspiracy that
I managed to scare him away quite some time ago. So there's
I could
can't wait to go have a second bowl of cobbler and celebrate Valentine's Day. Yay.
Yeah. There you go. Oh, wow. Down on I-74, you can see the Bigfoot daily. You might be able to purchase it if you have like $169. So Lucy, conspiracy fact time.
Conspiracy fact, and I think it might. I can't remember which congressperson. Might have been Tom Cotton. I'm not sure. Anyway, this is just out, recently released. We have an insider whistleblower from the FBI who released the 2023 playbook on who they're going to be targeting and who the FBI is going to be concentrating on in 2023, and rated to be more dangerous than Islamic terrorists and Marxists. They are targeting Christians. Like this is literally in the memo. They are to target Christians. They are to target Catholics because of the the threat that they pose, being pro-life and coming against LGBTQ.
Catholics.
And if you were anti-communist, you were on the targeted list, as well as white people. So there was a few more. Those are the highlights that I remembered. But the FBI literally has been instructed to do that. So during the congressional hearings about this, they're saying, we really don't want to, derail for the Ohio thing. We're really not looking to, dismantle the FBI or whatever. We want to, bring it back. And no. There's one answer, and that is to burn it all down. Congress is directly responsible for the behavior of the FBI and the CIA and all of these other three-letter agencies that ruin our lives because Congress provides the funding. And if the funding didn't exist, of course, the CIA will still work with cartels and, kill people with fentanyl and make their money on the side with their black box operations. But it is a real thing that is going on right now that the FBI has been told to target Christians and anti-communists.
Now, did Mouthwash come up on that list at all?
They did not. Apparently, we're not seen as a threat, which really disappoints me. I mean, the more lists I'm on, the more,
we don't have enough white people to be a threat.
We got a few on here. I mean,
sorry, I don't want to assume anybody's white, but I'm Catholic, so if that's helpful.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm an old white dude. I'm the blame of everything that's gone wrong is blaming on an old white dude, man. We're the worst. So, my conspiracy is going to be about these UFOs that they've been shooting down. You know, I like how they come out and say, well, we don't really know what it was. You know, it might have been, you know, Johnny's experiment, his weather experiment. I mean, who knows? It could be some kid shooting a rocket, you know, out there. You know, when we used to build the rockets, Ed, you probably built a rocket or two, didn't you, today? Then you shoot the thing off. You spend about 2 weeks
most
building
definitely.
the thing and shoot it off
Do
in about
bottle
20
rockets
seconds.
pointed at my brother count?
Lucy, that doesn't surprise me.
Yes.
Is your brother
It
still
was
alive?
completely in self-defense. He's a firefighter. Like, he's crazy. He runs into burning buildings. I mean,
So you just were giving him practice. Okay, I see. So Tony, you have set the record for having a book on your head during conspiracy theory. I just want you to know that it's in the Guinness Book.
Yeah,
of
this
World
is a
Records.
book called Rest of the Story, and it's
Paul
just like,
Harvey.
yeah, let's go.
Good day.
I don't have like a present. Mine's also about the UFOs, but I think of something that would be really funny. I want some like no-name random nation that matters like nothing at all to start sending a bunch of balloons just to mess with NORAD, like just like Chile or Botswana or like, you know, like just at random Singapore.
How
Start sending them over.
How about Liberland? The libertarians, the freedom seekers and anarchists of the world, we have our own country now called Liberland, and we're recognized in 91 different countries and have embassies. We just opened up, I say we, I haven't actually joined them yet, but I'm there in spirit. And they just opened up an embassy in Mexico like 2 weeks ago. It's 7 square miles is the country.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
see, there you go. That's what I'm saying. Like, start sending balloons, just random, and like, just paint your country like advertisements, like the Goodyear blimp. And while we're on that subject, we should send all of our blimps over to China. Like, I want to see the Goodyear blimp over Beijing. You know, just for kicks.
I want to send a balloon up here with a target on it. You know, shoot here. I saw one friend of the show, Jim Lucas, had a little meme on there. He had a needle. 99 cents, and then he had a Tomahawk missile, $400,000, and then the balloon. He said, "Which one should we use?" so yeah, we're gonna shoot that thing down with a Tomahawk.
So, Tony, I have a quick question. Did you
Ask
have
away.
a beard in elementary school? Because I feel like you were just always maybe like a serious kid, and I could see you.
No, not at all. I was the class clown.
Really?
I used to not have a
the
beard,
guy
and
with
it
a
was
book on his
terrible.
head.
And I forbid all of you from looking up photos of me beardless. It's terrible. Ugh, it's like a 3rd grade girl. Ugh.
Well, yeah, you're on the radio. You can shave it off if you don't care, right?
No,
But
my contract with Heritage says that I actually can't shave my beard without asking.
Really? Oh man, the man has got you on under the thumb.
Yeah,
there.
but
So,
they put me on TV. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you just got to roll with it. You got to roll with it. Well,
cool.
that is going to end our conspiracy theory. And next week, we'll have an over on under on how many times will Tiffany's tinfoil fall off. So we're going to go with 5 on the under and 5 is the over and under. So we'll do that. Tony, it's always great having you on the show. And I'm convinced more than ever that you know everything. So we appreciate you being here. And we'll have you back soon or sometime, and we'll talk about things. So
really enjoy the show and all of
Thank
you
you,
guys.
Tony.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. So
Thank you.
let me get to the ending here. Oh, there you go. And then we'll see you backstage after the show. Thanks everybody for watching. Audience is great as usual. See you next week. We'll have another spectacular show for you. So adios, amigos.